All right, guys, we got Bud Black here for you. We'll start off with Mark. Go ahead, Mark.
Hey, buddy. Jon Gray's been good at home pretty much over his career. Any rhyme or reason or something that makes him tick to pitch well at Coors Field that you've seen over your time with him?
Home cooking.
End of story?
No, serious, Mark. I'm sorry. I thought that might bring a little chuckle.
No, it doesn't. I understand home sweet home and everything, but
No, home cooking.
Yeah. I mean, Rockies have been criticized, obviously, about Coors Field and pitching, et cetera. I mean, we know that story, but I've just looked at his numbers today, and he's been good at home.
Yeah, I mean,
I'll say that. I'll say home cooking. That's what Bud told me.
well, I think John feels comfortable here. I don't think, John, like a number of our guys, doesn't let the perception of altitude get in the way of how he pitches. I think his mindset is such that he's going to pitch his game no matter where he is. I think his stuff plays here. Velocity, hard slider, developing changeup here in 2021. There's been some ups and downs, sure, but to your point, the overall career record, 1 loss, ERA, internal numbers, all things to look at, it's been very solid. Maybe a better question for John, but for me, I just think that I think it's maybe a comfort level here. Maybe as confident, maybe more confident here than he is anywhere else. But I've seen him throw great games on the road as well.
Right. Thank you, buddy.
You're welcome, Mark.
Go ahead, Owen.
Hey, buddy. Wanted to ask you about the close games that you guys have had. I think in the past you've managed teams that have been at the top or near the top in terms of winning close games. This year, I think the Rockies are at the other end of the spectrum. How telling is that feature? What can you glean from how a team does in those kind of close games?
Well, I think it comes down to, thanks for identifying that. But, I think it comes down to, an at-bat here or there and a pitch here or there. Obviously in close games, it comes down to clutch hitting with runners in scoring position, or that one big hit that teams continue to get. That can come from anybody. And also that one pitch or that one critical at bat where, your pitcher gets that out at the most critical of times. And so far this year, we've seen both of those in play not go our way. There's been a number of games, and we can go through them where an at bat turned the game. And there have been some games where we've had chances late to get a big hit, and we haven't gotten it. So you'd like to think that things would progress to the mean, and the worm will turn, and we'll start getting those big hits and making those pitches. But you're correct. Right now, through these first 16 games, it hasn't happened.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Thomas.
Yeah, buddy, philosophical pitching, teaching, coaching question here.
Great.
But,
I like these.
I've watched the starters especially really develop their secondary pitches over a period of time. You have some relief pitchers that are using more secondary pitches than in the past. Is it harder to develop those as a reliever because you have so much less time on the mound in games?
Yes. And when you're in there, in most cases, it's the game's in the balance. For a lot of guys that, who are pitching, and we've had a lot of close games, so every time a guy comes into our games, it seems like this year, with the exception of a couple, the game's been in the balance. So it's much harder to, bring a pitch that you're trying to develop into your repertoire. It's tough to throw that pitch when the game's on the line because you don't want to get beat with anything less but your best stuff. So it is harder for relief pitchers, and you don't have the luxury of side sessions and bullpen work like starters do to continue to get the reps with a certain pitch that you're working on. So yes, the answer to that is yes. Tougher for relief pitchers to, bring a pitch into a game. So you got to pick your spots, and you hope over time, maybe the course of a first half of a season or entire season, you have those moments where you have success with a pitch, and that maybe enables you to have the confidence to break it out in your next outing, your next appearance, and maybe continue to grow that way if you throw it in the right spot against the right hitter, in the right count, in the right situation. That's how you do it. But the volume of repetitions that you get as reliever to work on a pitch during the season is not a lot. It's not a lot.
And how big is it to develop these pitches? I know that there have been pitchers who've kind of gotten away with hard stuff or maybe a signature pitch, but it looks like more and more relievers are trying to do, whether it's at a breaking pitch or at an off-speed pitch. Is it today's game you have to do that?
Well, yeah, there are some pitchers who have the gift of one pitch, and over time they've been able to do it, and it's that big of a gift, to have a pitch. Mariano Rivera, for example, had a great gift of the natural cut fastball that he continued to perfect over years. But in most cases, guys are always trying to improve their stuff. And in this day and age, the stuff is better. They're trying to add to it. I do think overall hitting is better. So you have to expand your repertoire. And I think you're seeing more pitchers, trying to expand what they have. Whether it's a different type of secondary pitch, whether it's change up, split finger fastball, whatever the pitch might be. I think pitchers, relief pitchers are trying to get better. Simple as that.
Okay, this may or may not be part of the context, but just looking at some of the statistics, I know you guys are up there relief pitcher wise in home runs allowed, walks, and also walks and hits per innings pitched. Are there times when guys try to do too much or miss with a pitch they're experimenting with? Not experimenting, but adding, or what?
I don't think so. From the games that this year, I don't see that happening. I know that Yancey gave up a home run to Muncy on a 2-0 changeup that was meant to be down and away to maybe make him chase the ball out of the strike zone in a hitter's count. I think that the home runs are just a function of location. For me and our bullpen, this season so far in 16 games, we've walked too many guys. That means our ball strike ratio hasn't been great. We've been behind in the count. We've been in too many hitters counts, and when we do throw a strike, the hitters are ready because they can be offensive, and they hit the ball at the park. So I think it's more of a function of poor location, bad counts too often, and not so much. I would say guys not getting beat on a third pitch.
Okay, I'm going to ask just one more on another subject. I mean, I could talk about pitching longer, but
Just open up.
yeah, it's great. Charlie Blackmon, obviously the numbers aren't where he wants them to be. And he was in here earlier and he talked that he felt his approach was right, his thought process. He feels like he's working his way towards something. Is that what you see, or have you seen anything in his at-bats that are like, hey, this is a problem area that he needs to work on?
Yeah, I agree with Charlie. Nobody's more prepared and ready to play than Charlie Blackmon in all of baseball. I'll go to, I'm sure other managers will say that about, some of their own players, but I'll put Charlie's preparation and focus up against anybody. The only thing I usually when a player is, maybe not off to a start that he wants to, or during a segment of the season where they're not swinging well, the natural tendency is to be more aggressive, to hit your way out of it, right? And with that comes more first pitch swings, more, swings out of the strike zone because you're being overly aggressive. And that's, maybe a little bit what's happening with Charlie. A lot of good hitters, I mean, their philosophy is, hey, I'm going to hit my way out of it. I'm going to be aggressive. And that's, that's the feeling that most players, have in their mind to get out of a little bit of the fun. If you go the other way and be more patient, be more selective, be more passive, you run into the frustration part of, maybe getting a pitch that is a good pitch, didn't you take it? Because you're trying to be more selective, you're being patient, you want to see more pitches, you want to get deeper in the count. And that becomes more frustrating for players. So, that's how I see, the Charlie's current situation. And I see that changing. Could be as early as tonight.
Well, I mean, looking at the weekend, I think he had a double, RBI single, couple hits in there. I mean, have you seen signs of it?
Yeah,
Way?
Yeah, I've seen signs. Again, Charlie's, he's not striking out. He's not, the walk rate's maybe not his norm. But again, I think that he's being, probably maybe in Charlie's, knowing Charlie, I can maybe just a tad over aggressive, but he's an aggressive hitter to start with, and I like that.
Thanks, buddy.
We'll go to Patrick next. Go ahead, Patrick.
Good afternoon, buddy. How are you?
I'm well, Patrick. Good afternoon.
Two topics for you. One is Ryan McMahon. I'm working on a story on Ryan, and I know you've talked about him a lot so far, but you could put it in this context for me. What kind of growth have you seen from him? Not simply as a fielder and hitter, but as a big leaguer, so to speak, since he started getting a regular time with the Rockies.
Yeah, I think big picture, I think, more confident, true confidence in the belief that, he can be an impact player in the league. I think it takes time for players to, really understand what that means. And it takes time. And I think with Ryan, he's to that point now where he's been around, the big leagues long enough to realize that he can play with anybody in this league. Defensively, he's got power. I do think he's going to hit for, a nice solid average, somewhere between 250 and 300. I think that should be part of his game. But I think the overall confidence. Has he totally got there yet? No, I think there's still room to grow. And I think he'll be the first to tell you just, from day to day at bats that, the grind of, not giving away at bats, being calm in certain situations. I've noticed improvement in those areas, improvement in the everyday grind and improvement in the everyday critical at bats late in the game. I've seen growth there, and he'll get better with time. So, his overall growth has been, at a nice incremental pace that I think is pretty standard for players with a couple of years of service time.
He's at least around us. Of course, we're not around you guys really this year, but in the past, for lack of a better term, kind of a happy-go-lucky guy. I mean, smiling, easygoing. But does that kind of belie the intensity and the competitiveness he plays with?
Before the game and just his, personality and mannerisms are such, right? He's always upbeat, he's positive. He's got a friendly way about him. But during the game, I mean, there's an intensity to compete and perform. There's an energy to his game that we all like as coaches and myself as the manager. right? He plays at a high level of energy on defense. In the batter's box, there's an energy going up to the plate and, in between pitches, his swings, he's, there's don't let the easygoing manner, fool you on the competitor and the intensity, for sure.
And one more topic from me. You have Jonathan Daza starting in center today, I believe. He hasn't got a ton of at-bats, but he is hitting 350 in the early going.
Yeah.
What's your assessment of him thus far this season?
That's one of the reasons he's in there. We're trying to find that, maybe ride a little bit of the momentum that he has. He had a good at-bat the other day, pinch hitting against Stroman. Hit a line drive to short. Had three hits against the Dodgers the other day. Albeit they were well placed, but we're gonna have to use all these guys, Patrick, as you know. We've said that multiple times to keep them all current. We just thought today was a good day to get Dawes in there. Coming off his last 3 or 4 games. To your point, right? He's hitting 350. I think it was 7 for 20, something like that. And he's having good at bats. That's the thing that we've liked is that there's his approach, right? He's not going up there wildly swinging. He's swinging at strikes. He's taking balls, even though he hasn't walked. He's controlling the strike zone. They're throwing strikes. They're going after him. But we just thought this was an opportunity to start him and give Hampy a night off from starting. Hanson will be in there at some point tonight, I'm sure. And Hampy can work a little bit in the cage today on a couple things. So it was just one of those things that, from a coaching standpoint, it was Dawes' time to get started.
Thanks, Mike.